In the meditation, you heard the phrase, the self within and the living spirit. It's the focus of our message today. You have a self. It's that part of you that is your essential being. It's the part that separates you from all others. It's the part that makes you, you. In our teaching, The Science of Mind, we teach that that self of you is always in its original state. Innocent, pure, connected, holy. And the path of spiritual living is in part about bringing that self forward into expression. That's pretty much what we're exploring today. The journey of discovering what hidden powers there are in us. And why hidden? Well, because it's not in the most obvious place. An old story I like to bring out to explain this is, I think it's from Hinduism. It's the legend that there was a time when all human beings were fully in tune with their divinity, and so they could do anything. Things got out of hand. And so the Creator decided something had to be done. That divinity had to be placed somewhere that human beings couldn't get hold of it again. So there was a debate among all the gods. What shall we do with divinity? Where shall we place it? Where shall we hide it? And they discussed, and one said, we should put it under a rock on the highest mountain where the air is too thin to breathe. And the Creator said, no, they'll figure it out eventually. Now another one said, let's drop it under the same rock to the bottom of the ocean where they cannot breathe. And the Creator said, no, they'll figure it out. They're too smart. And so they couldn't imagine a safe hiding place until the Creator said, I know what we'll do with humankind's divinity. We'll hide it somewhere where they'll never think to look. We'll hide it deep inside of themselves. That's the last place they'll think to look. And even though we can predict the punchline, we know. I think it's because sometimes when we begin our spiritual journey of discovery, we're not even looking for our own divinity. That's not even on the radar. That's not even part of the plan. We're just trying to get by. We're just trying to figure things out. And, a teaching like our Science of Mind or some similar one will give us tools, teach us how to use tools to help ourselves. So there's the practical part of the spiritual journey. It's very important, we teach. Here's how you meditate and why it's important. Because it connects you to the intuitive flow of knowledge. Here's why you volunteer. Because service, it changes your life, it changes your relationships, it improves your self-esteem, it connects you to your compassionate heart. Here's why you give. Because without giving, you're not part of the reciprocal flow of the universe. Something's blocked. Here's how you pray. And you do it because with it you can change the energetic flow of your life. And then at some point, during all of this help and all of this self-help and learning all of this stuff, it's unavoidable. At some point, we're going to notice there's something else going on over here. There's more to life than my problems and sorting them out. There's something else going on here that is constant, dependable, permanent, that stays the same while everything is changing. And we may not notice that at first because we may be focused on our needs, possibly even surviving. So we're learning maybe to cope. We're learning to fix everything. We're learning how to put things back in their place all around us. We're learning how to navigate through life. And then we get over one hill, only to see there's another mountain just behind it. And then life is a series of hills and mountains and hills and mountains and hills and mountains. And it takes a lot of time and effort to deal with them. And we haven't even started looking for our divinity. I'm too busy digging to move the hills and mountains, and all the while we tell ourselves somewhere in one of those hills is my happiness. Then after a while, it suddenly becomes clear that the real work of the spiritual journey surely can't be in all of this digging. And we realize that maybe the work of the spiritual journey is coming to peace with the hills and mountains exactly where they are, leaving them as they are. That can be difficult to hear, especially if you've been digging for a long time. And so instead of struggling against the landscape of life, we learn instead how to work with something else. Our perception of the hills and mountains. We learn to trust the landscape to be what it is, exactly where it is supposed to see. And when we realize that, something inside of us starts to stir, and we start to notice untapped powers that before were hidden because we were focusing on survival. And now we are starting to locate what the Creator hid away, the self inside of us, pure, original, holy, aware. Well, here's another way of saying it. We may start our spiritual journey in life because we're looking for some kind of help. And so we find a method. Maybe it's a 12-step, maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's a support group, or maybe it's a teaching like this one, The Science of Mind. And whatever we find, we begin to learn that what we think shapes the way we experience life. And this knowledge is exciting because it lifts us up out of those disempowered states where we feel powerless and out of control and can't handle the world, helpless. And we go, no, wait a minute, I can. I can do something about my life's direction because there is a powerful good in the universe greater than I am, and it's in me. I can learn how to pray affirmatively using a specific method, and then doing that I can begin to reorient the direction of my energetic encounters in the world. I can participate in a reconstruction of my life by redirecting my energy. I can, by syncing my thinking with the knowing of the self within, I can do that. And then as we become more awake to my interaction, our interaction in the world, more aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, my inner conversations, and more conscious of my choices, things begin to clear up, and I may even start to notice where I'm sabotaging myself. I may even see possibilities for where further change is possible, and these skills are so exciting because we may become interested in better relationships, better habits, better clarity. We may even want to express more of our artistic potential. Or we may want to heal our broken heart. We may want to heal our bodies, or we may want to heal our world. So we want to change everything that is wrong and make it right. Because then, and only then, we will be at peace. Right? No? However, as we learn the skills of spiritual living, we begin to notice that we can only go so far with changing things out there. Oh, if you've ever tried to change something in this world, then you know. It can be very frustrating. And then when you and I discover the truth about changing things out there, if you're lucky, then you give up the fight, which is a big step towards sanity. You start to let things be. In other words, you give up trying to control the world. And you start looking instead for, where do I have control? Where do I have mastery? Where do I have choice? And so the search begins. And that search will lead you to the hidden kingdom within you, to the hidden self within that is awake, aware, holy, connected. And then you discover it, the realm, the kingdom of your perception. We call it consciousness. And then you start to do your work there. Here's another way to say it. At some point in the spiritual journey, we must discover that the only thing that we can change is perception or consciousness. Try to change things out there equals suffering. Try to change people equals suffering. Try to change history, events, situations. Suffering, suffering, suffering. I think that is why metaphysics, and we are a metaphysical movement, places so much emphasis on affirmative prayer, because affirmative prayer is the inner movement of thought and feeling in the silence of my own mind, in my perception, until I see the world anew, until I see the world in the same way that the self in me knows it really is. Of course, we still have to act in this world. We still have to do our duties. We still have to take care of our loved ones. We still have to be involved. We still have to vote. We still have to do everything. It's just that if you and I don't know about the power of our perception, we might end up believing anything that anyone tells us. And if that happens, you could find yourself right back dealing with hills and mountains all over again, digging, trying to move the world out there. Let me try to explain what I mean. If I spend all of my time out there trying to move things around, changing things out there, change him, change her, change this, change that, change this. Or if when I'm praying, I'm using prayer as a way to force a change into being, or to will a situation to improve, or to focus until something changes direction, or to plead for a favor, I may be missing an important part of the puzzle of the hidden self. And it's this. We don't use our minds to change things. We change our minds, and then things change. We do not will things to change. We change our minds, and things will change. We do not use our minds to reach the divine and to convince Spirit to do something. No, what we do is we tune in to the Spirit, the living Spirit of wholeness within us, and then agree with it, harmonize with it, and then begin to see the world as it sees it. Or another way of saying it is, I may not be able to change reality, but I may be able to change the filter through which I view reality. And when I do, it is often the case that I experience reality wasn't what I thought it was anyway. I think it's story time. A favorite story to illustrate this that I call upon often comes from Sylvia Boorstein's book, It's Easier Than You Think. In it, she tells the story of what she calls one of her greatest teachers, her greatest gurus, a woman whose name she never ever found out. The way of the story is that this woman taught her that her view of life as dangerous and threatening and hazardous is only one particular perspective, and that, in fact, others exist. The way it happened was she was vacationing in Mexico in a beach community adjacent to a caravan park, a trailer park, and it was a very, very hot summer. She was uncomfortable even in the high-rise luxury condominium with the air conditioning. And taking a walk on the beach, she met this young woman who was staying in the trailer park, and they got into a conversation, and the woman, the young mother, revealed that she had been staying there for the summer while her husband was out flying around in a single propeller airplane doing business while she stayed at home with a 4-year-old and a crawler. Sylvia's mind is already starting to conjure up the worst case scenario. A woman alone, foreign country, 4-year-old in a crawler, the water, drinking water, the heat, the no air conditioning. Where's the nearest doctor? And a flying husband? Danger, 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 as her mind constructs the catastrophes. But the woman is having a wonderful time. That night, however, a terrible storm hits the place. Thunder and lightning and rain, and the trailer caravan park is destroyed. She comes down in the morning looking around, and lo and behold, there she finds the young woman, the young mother, and says to her, "Did you have any problems with the children?" And she says, "Oh, no. The baby slept right through it, and the 4-year-old would have, but I had to wake him up so he didn't miss the storm." Sylvia writes, "I was stunned. I thought to myself, there is another way to do life. I completely got it that she and I took the same data and saw it through different filters. I came out with a catastrophic story, and she came out with a thrilling adventure. I wanted to change filters with her. The woman on the beach was a great teacher for me, and although I was not able to change my behavior in any way at that time, she taught me that another way of responding to life is possible." Think with me for a moment of something in your life that you would like to see through a different filter. You might ask, well, how do I know what to choose? Pick the thing that you want to change the most. That's the one. And then we ask, how do I change my mind about something like that? Well, the first step is to acknowledge that there are other filters They do exist. Other filters through which the same situation can be seen, and you've got to find that for yourself, the softness to hold that. And if you can't get there, then you want to go to the chapel after service and get prayer for support, because this is an important first step. Otherwise, you'll be stuck moving hills and mountains again and changing things out there. The second step is to begin trying on other filters in a safe environment, as an experiment, How would the woman on the beach see the situation that you're dealing with? We can take it further. Perhaps close your eyes with me right now and think of this situation in your life. And then call into your imagination someone you admire very, very much and ask yourself silently, how would she or he look at this situation? And you can try on different filters. For example, call into your awareness someone whose advice you definitely would not take. And ask yourself, how would she or he see this situation? And then, as if addressing a part of you, an inner part that is silent and holy, ask yourself silently, how is this situation that I'm looking at also, simultaneously, a blessing? It's a tender question. And thinking about the situation, ask yourself, how does the self of God, that presence hidden inside of me, that is alive, alert, awake, holy, what does it know about this situation? I realize that there is a divine presence at the center of my being. I let this recognition flow through my entire awareness, my consciousness. I let it affect my perspective. I let it reach down into the very depths of my being, and I rejoice in knowing it. This presence, the self of God within me, occupies everything about me, every part of my being. And just as the sun dissolves the mist, so does my acceptance of the self within dissolve all pain and discord. And I become aware again of the freedom that has its origin in the self within me. I rejoice in the Spirit of God within me. And so it is. Now let the next breath you take be deep, followed by a sigh.